Welcome to today's webinar, Anchoring a Reputation of Excellence. I'm Joan Burge, founder and CEO of Office Dynamics International. We are a global leader in the development and presentation of sophisticated training programs and information for administrative office professionals. I'm also the author of 4 books for administrative professionals, including our Amazon bestseller, Who Took My Pen Again? And I bet many of you can relate. Well, I'm happy to see all of you joining us. Yes, please introduce yourself in our chat. Tell us what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from, because we have people join us from around the world. So welcome, everyone. Before I begin today's program, I have a few announcements. So let's go through those as we are waiting for others to join the webinar today. So first of all, the learning part of our program will be 40 minutes, and then we're going to leave time for Q&A. You can submit your questions anytime during the webinar. You don't have to wait until the end. And also, if you can click on the question mark icon, if you do submit a question, that will help us easily find your question and make sure it gets answered. Webinar Jam, which is the platform we use, holds 1,000 people in the chat. So if you don't make it into the chat, maybe next time we have a webinar, you'll want to come in early so you can get your spot and be able to communicate with us. Oh, I'm looking Cleveland, Ohio. That's my hometown. Hello, Julie from Cleveland, and welcome to the rest of you. What else? If you have any technical issues, the only support we can give you is through the chat. So please do not email Amira, as much as you would love to do it. She just cannot manage the volume of emails that we get. And really, again, the only way we can help you is through the chat. For today's program, we do not have a handout, so you're going to want to listen and take some really good notes. I hope you have either your laptop available or pad and pencil. And the last announcement is we will send you a replay link. So if you've missed anything in today's webinar, you'll be able to play this again. Or in case you have to head out a little early today. But I hope you can stay for the entire webinar because I am so excited about this topic. I love speaking about our reputations, especially in the workplace. I love speaking on excellence. That's what I have been speaking on for 27 years to administrative professionals. So today we're going to rock it. I am really excited about this. So please be able to keep up with me. This year, Office Dynamics hosted our inaugural Learning at Sea course. I'm not sure if you were aware of it, but it was quite life-changing. I had 13 assistants attend our course in March. It was the first one, as I said. 13 was a perfect number. We were planning on a very intimate event, and it was. As I said, it was life-changing. It was thought-provoking. The bonding was incredible. And the 13 assistants who attended were from really different backgrounds and industries and countries. And it was just interesting to see how everyone melded together. Well, today's topic, Anchoring a Reputation of Excellence, is from the Learning at Sea course. And it flowed so well that I was really excited to share it with you, and I am excited to share it with you today. So your reputation in the workplace can be your most treasured asset or most dangerous liability. Creating a strong, consistent presence will establish you as a long-term power player. So how do you make this happen? Let's get into the meat of the program. First of all, before I go into my tips, there are 3 important things I want to tell you about reputation. So first of all, Your reputation is important. It's always with you, no matter what you do, where you go. And even if you're not trying to create a reputation, you're doing it anyways, just by being you and what you do throughout the day, how you speak, how you walk, how you talk, how you handle stress, how you manage conflict in the office. So that's the first point. Second, really important, own your reputation. You have to own it. But to own it, you also have to know what you want your reputation to be. Have you ever stopped and thought how you want to be perceived by others, how you want to be known? If I were to come to someone who knows you very well and I would ask, all right, so we've got Dixie in the chat with us. So if I were to go to one of Dixie's peers or associates at work and say, tell me about Dixie. If you had to give me some words and descriptors about her, what would you say about Dixie? And then based on what they're telling me, that's how they're forming their opinion, which is basically your reputation, because that's what people will talk about. So point number 2, own your reputation. Point number 3, you build your reputation over time and you can tear it down in a heartbeat. That sounds kind of conflicting, doesn't it? So let's take each piece. So first of all, when I say you build your reputation over time, so I'm thinking in terms of my reputation as the owner and founder and as a speaker and consultant of Office Dynamics for 27 years. So I have built my reputation over the years. When I started Office Dynamics in 1990, a lot of people didn't know who I was. They didn't know what I was doing. They didn't know what my company was about. They didn't know what talents I had to bring. But I have worked very hard at building my reputation and my company's reputation. I've thought about how do I want to be perceived? What do I want people to say about Joan Burge? So when people talk about Joan Burge, what am I hoping they're saying? Wow, Joan is sharp and she's professional and she knows her stuff. Okay, so over the years, I've built my reputation by being consistent, by giving on-time delivery, by caring about my clients. I've built my reputation by being poised, polished, professional. That's what people say about me. But let's talk about how you could tear it down in a heartbeat. So in just one, second or 1 minute of a big outburst could ruin my reputation, right? Maybe let's say that I'm speaking and I have someone in the audience who's giving me a tough time. Yes, it does happen. Or maybe there's someone in the audience or in my training class who argues and disagrees with me about what I'm telling them. And let's say that I just burst out or lash out back at that person. What do you think is going to be said about me when those assistants leave that training room, right? They're going to say, wow, what's with that Joan Burge? Boy, did you hear how she lashed out at that, attendee? And that's what people are going to hear. So you have to think about every single day, every single hour, every single half hour. You are either building your reputation or it could stay status quo, actually, or you may do something or say something that can harm your reputation. So it's very, very important. As I said, your reputation is a treasure and you need to treat it as such. And each little piece of you is a gem within that treasure box. And so you want to think about what are those pieces that you want to use and build to build your reputation. So for the program that I did at the Learning at Sea, I did research, which I always like to do really for all my programs. I don't want to think about only what I think about, but what do other subject matter experts say? So I'm going to share some tips, actually 6 keys to assembling a reputation that will serve you well. And they're from Alison, Alison Green. She's an author. And actually, as I go through these 6, I would like you to rate yourself in your own mind on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being, I never do this. 5 being, I always do this. Now, it's hard to get 5s because that would mean you're a perfect person. And, we are human and we do make mistakes, but I hope you can be at least maybe a 4. So let's get started. There are 6. So the first is to show respect and kindness to everyone. So it's easy to show respect and kindness to the people you like at work, and maybe you do it because of people's titles. But thinking within your organization, and when I think back to when I was a secretary, is what I was called in those days, is how did I treat people who worked in the mailroom? How did I treat vendors? How did I treat the receptionists? So when I say everyone, I mean everyone. What about when you go into the company cafeteria? How do you treat the servers that are there taking care of you and feeding you? Are you giving them respect? Are you saying, hi, how is your day? Or are you too busy focused on yourself and how your day is going? So again, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, showing respect and kindness to everyone. The second one is to keep your word, really important. So again, on a scale of 1 to 5, if you think about over a 12-month period, 1 to 5, how often do you keep your word? And so what does that mean? What does it look like? It means that if you say you're going to get to, some information to someone else in your organization by next Monday, that you're going to keep your word. You're going to get it to that person by next Monday. Now, if something should come up whereby you can't meet that deadline, that you at least have the courtesy to write that person, let them know you're not going to make that deadline, maybe ask for an extension. So again, showing being considerate of others, basically. It might be, I'm looking at keeping your word. She talks about, so Alison talks about that your teammates should be able to count on you. In other words, are you there when your peers need you? When another assistant maybe needs backup, or another assistant is out on vacation or leave, and if you're that backup person, can they count on you? Are you going to be there to support them? Or maybe it's something just being supportive of a peer who's going through a difficult time. Can people count on you to do that? Can your executive count on you to follow through on the assignments that your executive has given to you? So it's really important, to keep your word and do what you say you're going to do. The third key that Alison Green shares is work hard. Now I want to read exactly what she wrote. Work hard. It sounds simple, but when you look around and see how many people kill work time on Facebook, or by texting throughout a meeting, or taking on personal calls one after another, it becomes easy to see how truly working hard can make you stand out. So this is really key today. I can relate to this. I see it when I go into companies, when I go into organizations. I'm sure you see it. So working hard doesn't mean putting in a lot more hours. That isn't what we mean by working hard. In fact, I would love for you to contribute in the chat. What do you think work hard means? What would be examples of working hard? So one example would be to be focused, to be focused on your work. Again, to not be distracted, not be texting or looking at your emails while someone else is talking to you, or when you're supposed to be working on a project, and making sure you resist that urge to jump on Facebook and see what's going on. Now, I do have to say that Facebook isn't all that bad because, of course, for us as a company, we post on Facebook. We're trying to post educational information and tips and things like that. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So let's see what some of the definitions you have. So Kathy has it's being efficient. These are coming in fast. Lisa, offering to help when you see others struggling with a workload. Thank you very much. Megan says, working hard. Whoop, 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 it's going so fast. Finding a better way every day in any situation. Christina says, be present, not texting. Connie, I love it. Work hard by prioritizing your work. So you folks know what I'm talking about, right? I think what we have to do is just make sure we're conscious of it. All right, let's look at number 4. The key from Allison Green is to go beyond what's expected of you. And it's interesting because Allison says people sometimes resist going above and beyond the basic requirements of their job, figuring that if they're not being compensated for it, they should not do it. So this reminds me of something I did when I was an assistant, an executive assistant. And it was later in my career. I mean, I did it many times throughout my career, but the story that just struck me. It was later in my career. I was about 17 years into being an assistant, and I really wanted to help provide some education and training to the other assistants in our organization. I was also thinking about that maybe at some point, you know, in 3 or 4 years, I would maybe want to switch gears and get into true training. So I offered to present mini workshops and little learning sessions for the assistants in our company. I did not ask for extra money. I did it all on my own time. I worked in the evenings. I did it on the weekends. I just, I wanted to do it. I wanted to help others. I wanted to share my information. I knew the company would benefit from it. I did not expect pay. And it's a little, that's where you could really stand out, because it's a little frustrating for an executive or a manager to hear, well, I went above and beyond, so I think I deserve a raise. If you go above and beyond and you have a good leader, they are going to see it, and you will get compensated in some way, shape, or form at some point. The other part of that, though, that I want to say is if you don't get recognized by your immediate supervisor, know that other people are watching you. In fact, that happened to me when I was working as a secretary in Memphis, Tennessee for Coppertone. And the mother company was Sharing Plow. And we had in Memphis, we had Coppertone, we had, Maybelline and Dr. Scholl's were our product lines. And so I was an executive assistant to a vice president. We were going to be going through a major change where our president of the company was retiring from Memphis, and we were not going to replace that president, which meant that a lot of our vice presidents might not be staying, and they might be asked to go to New Jersey, where the mother company is. So fortunately, I had a good reputation. I mean, I was just doing good work. I kept my word. I went the extra mile. Well, one of the executives in the Dr. Scholl's division had been watching me and had been noticing me over that year and a half, before this change had occurred. And knowing what was going on in the organization and the changes we were going through, that executive came to me one day and said, Joan, would you be interested in an executive assistant position working for the CEO of Boatman's Bank? My wife is the director of human resources. And I said, yes, I would. And I did get the job. I interviewed, and I'm glad I did, because eventually that facility in Memphis closed. So that's what I mean. When you go above and beyond, people will notice you. Someone will see you. And even if it's not your immediate supervisor, don't worry about it. Just form this reputation of excellence. It will carry you forever in whatever you do. All right, let's do a few more, because then I have my ideas I want to share with you. Help others, of course. One of the fastest ways to build a strong reputation is to help others. Word will spread about you. And the last one that is really important is to welcome critical feedback. And Allison says even to seek it out. People who are truly great at what they do generally want to know where they could be even better. Now, this is something I've been teaching assistants for 27 years. I teach assistants how to be star achievers, how to be star performers. And one of the things that I always say, a star achieving assistant wants to know their gap areas. They don't run from them. They don't hide from them. They seek feedback. So I want to encourage you, and you know what, the feedback may not always come the way you want. It may not always be presented in the way that you want, but you focus on the context of what someone is trying to tell you. And so if you know anything about the Johari window, Johari, Johari window, look it up. And there are these 4 windows. And one of the windows is called our blind spot. And the blind spot are things that you know about me that I don't know about myself. So let's say that I want to be great when I present my webinars to you. I want to be poised and polished and not distracting, so you could focus on what I'm saying. Well, let's say that throughout today's webinar, I'm fiddling with my hair and my jacket and all these different things, and I don't even know I'm doing it. I'm just thinking about what I want to tell you. Well, let's say then that one of you writes and says, Joan, I'm not sure if you realize it or not, but you were really kind of fidgety and, distracting with other things. And it was hard for me to pay attention to what you were saying. That's a gift, because I want to do an awesome job for you. That's my blind spot. So it's something people see that we do not see. And the only way we become better and achieve excellence is to be open to our blind spots. All right. So I will recap those 6 for you in case you missed them. And again, these are from Allison Green. She's an author. So the first piece, show respect and kindness to everyone. Number 2, keep your word. Number 3, work hard. Don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and jump in. Number 4, I had go beyond what's expected of you. Number 5 is to help others. And number 6 is to welcome critical feedback. So let's talk about excellence for a minute, because again, I've been talking about it for years, and I want to clarify. Excellence is not perfection. I am not saying be perfect. No one is perfect. I cannot be perfect, but I do strive for excellence. So that's all I want you to do, is strive to have this reputation of excellence. A good friend of mine, Chrissy Civic, and I imagine many of you know Chrissy, has a wonderful quote that I have in the workbook for the Learning at Sea. And she says, no one stays on top of their game without fighting to stay there. Did you hear that? That's awesome. No one stays on top of their game without fighting to stay there. Once you think you know everything, something new will come along and knock you off that pedestal. So that's what excellence is about. All right, let's do a quick little activity before I throw you some life preservers. And you can put your answers in the chat. Yes, Chrissy is the best. I love Chrissy. All right, so here's the little activity that I do in the class when we go on Learning at Sea. And so what I asked the assistants to do, the participants, think of people you know who you picture as a power player, a steady rock of competence and excellence. How would you describe them? So if you would, put your answers in the chat. Again, think of people you know. You picture them, they're a real power player, they're steady, they're consistent, they're pretty much portraying excellent most of the time. Now, while I'm waiting for your answers, I'll let you know what my participants had given me. Some of the ideas they use, some of the descriptors. Oh, they're coming in. Calm under pressure, focused, sharp, highly competent, Hillary Clinton, attentive, considerate, unflappable. I love it. Oh my gosh, gracious, confident, transparent, humble, consistent, strong leaders. These are good. Tell me more, tell me more. See the big picture. Excellent. Oprah Winfrey, inspirational, integrity. Look at that list. Amazing. Think of yourself. Could you say yes to these? Can you say, yes, I'm strong. I'm always striving. I'm consistent. I'm professional. I'm a great communicator. Kind, thoughtful, excellent, listens. Now, again, I don't expect you to be this 100% of the time because you're human. But the idea is over a 12-month period, you want to be able to say, yes, 80, 85% of the time, this is me, or even 90. Let's strive for 90. Okay, and we'll leave a little room for error for that bad day or when you've got something personal going on at home. Some of the things my participants said that I liked: tenacious. They said positive, forward thinking. Cindy Lopez, thank you. Raising the bar. Cecilia, I love it. Confident in their knowledge. So think about yourself. Picture yourself being a power player. You can be, and you can do it consistently. All right, so let me throw you some life preservers. Remember, this was Learning at Sea. So what did I share with my groups? I have 5 that I want to share with you. So first of all, the first life preserver has to do with mindset. That's where this all begins, folks. It's got to start with your mindset. Again, how do you see yourself? How do you perceive yourself? You have to truly believe in excellence. Not everyone believes in excellence. They really don't. I see a lot of assistants who believe in the status quo or believe in good enough is enough. As long as I'm good, that's enough. Because you see, excellence takes extra work. It takes extra energy, physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy. You have to engage all your senses throughout the day. You have to be alert. You have to pay attention. So I want you to think I'm going to give you 10 seconds here. Don't type anything in the chat. I want you to think about your mindset. One, about your reputation. What kind of a reputation do you want to have? What do you want to be known for? And remember, if you're not establishing your reputation or your brand, then someone else will. Think about what are your true beliefs about excellence. So I remember something my mother always used to tell me. It was ingrained in me when I was a child. It used to drive me crazy, though, when I was a child. But my mother would always say, whatever you do, Joan, you do it to the best. If you're emptying the dishwasher, do it to the best of your ability. If you're making your bed, you do it to the very best. Don't do it halfway. If you're cleaning the dishes from the dinner table, do it to your very best. So what's your mindset? Okay. The second life preserver I want to share with you, and this is really important in today's day and age, one simple word: ignore. Ignore the rest of the world, especially if they are not doing things appropriately, if they are not using proper protocol and etiquette. And today we live in a world where a lot of people are living by lower standards. So one of my clients who had called me a year or 2 years ago, big corporation, to come train their assistants. And it was the head of the corporate university. And he said to me, and he was a very wise man, he had been a career gentleman for many, many years. And he said, you know what the problem today is? That employees are performing at a lower, they're reaching for a lower bar. So what's happened over the years, the standards of excellence have been dropped. And so while employees think they are striving for that bar of excellence, what they don't realize is the bar has been lowered. So they're actually reaching for something that is not the highest possible that they can achieve. So what do I mean by ignore? What do you think I mean by that? What are some of the things? I'd love to hear from you in the chat box. Again, I know you're all wonderful, intelligent people. So what do you think are some of the things? Think of what you see in your workplace that you feel is not of excellence and that as an employee you should ignore. So maybe an example is, probably a great example we could all relate to, is you're sitting in on a staff meeting or a company meeting. And again, you're paying attention and there's someone else reading their emails, or they're on their phone, or they're texting, or they're talking. All right, thank you. Being resilient. Drama. Ignore drama. Yes, yes, yes. Politics. Thank you. Negative discussions. Yes. What else? If someone's being disrespectful. People laughing throughout a meeting. Excellent, Patty. More, Lisa, I respectfully disagree that the bar of excellence has been lowered. With technology getting better and better, one must continue to make sure they are relevant. Janet, rudeness, thank you. Rumors, definitely. What else? Let's think beyond now, the gossip, the rudeness. What else should we ignore where you think our standards have been lowered? How about let's ignore always emailing people and instead get up and talk to people? That's huge. You will stand out. Today, everybody just wants to email, and nobody gets up out of their seat, even when they're one cubby away from another person. So that's another thing. You will have a great reputation if you're the one who's getting up from your workplace and going and talking to people and engaging conversation, right? So that's another. Candace, ignore. That's how it's always been. So once again, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I'd like to challenge you. Keep coming in. Let me see, they're coming in so fast. Oh, thank you. Correct use of language. That's another area where I see the standards have really come down. Grammar, punctuation, language. And I think it's because, just the rules have become more slack. Would you not agree with that? But again, if you're this person of excellence, you're dotting your I's, you're crossing your T's, you're making sure everything's, the way it should be. And if you don't remember, or you're new, if you're maybe haven't been exposed to some of these things because you're in that younger generation, learn, Google it. Just look up books on excellence and protocol and business etiquette. That's another area where you can stand out. So I really, really want to encourage you, and this takes courage to stand out. All right, let's go to the third one. The third lifesaver is to fine-tune your craft. All people of excellence are constantly fine-tuning their craft. So again, I can only use myself as an example. Of course, I could tell you about other people as well. So one thing for me is, while I've been speaking for 27 years, I never take it for granted. I'm always trying to fine-tune my craft, how I present, what I present. When I'm in the classroom, while I think, yes, I've had excellent material and I definitely, people rave about it, but I'm always looking for, how can I do it better? How can I get participants more engaged? How can I make the training more stimulating for that individual? So I'd like you to think about, what are some areas, or where are some areas that you can fine tune your craft? So thinking about, what do you typically do? Think about your day. What are some of the things that you do as an administrative professional? And let's put some ideas again in the chat so you can give each other some ideas. Maybe it's hard to think about, gee, what could I fine tune? So one idea, your communication skills. So something I teach are communication styles, and we have an assessment where you could fill that assessment out. And once an assistant has gone through that program or that segment with me, and they know whether or not they have a preferred style, and they learn about other styles, they work at fine-tuning the craft of speaking in a way that is appealing to another person. So for example, I'm a red style, which is short, to the point, kind of matter of fact, get to the message, get to the heart of it. If I'm communicating with someone who's a very strong yellow, as we call them, they're very warm, friendly, detailed, intuitive. I am not going to think about my style, but I'm going to fine tune how I communicate, tap into their style, so that I can have impact, so that they will want to listen to me, so that I can build rapport with them. All right, let's see what you have. What are some ideas? Problem solving. Donna, thank you very much. That's a great area. Lisa, my best skill is being able to flex my style to suit others. Thank you. Let's see, what else do we have? Iris, fine tune your soft skills. Excellent, Iris. Thank you so much. Catherine, let's see, once the office procedures are written, review them regularly. Awesome that you thought of that. Rebecca, emotional intelligence. You're doing great. Keep sending your ideas to me. Donna, emotional intelligence. I love it. You're thinking beyond the basics. This is really good. I strive to always find a solution, adapt to challenges, and grow with them. Fine-tune thinking things through before responding. Excellent idea. So these are good. You know what I'm talking about. It's just do it, and do it with consistency, and challenge yourself. It's not a matter of competing with the other assistants or with other employees. It's competing with you, right? Just see how fantastic you really can be. It's exciting. It really is. And you will amaze yourself and others. Think strategically about SVP's calendar. Ivory, work on critical thinking skills. Very, very good. I'm proud of all of you. I really, really am. Thank you. Donna's going to fine-tune anticipation. Julie, watch webinars. Thank you. Listening skills. All right, great. Let's go on to life preserver number 4. So let's backtrack a minute. The first life preserver I gave you was mindset. What's your mindset about excellence and your reputation? Number two, ignore the people who aren't living at that level of excellence. Number three, fine tune. Number four, consistency. This is a really important word, consistency. So a little story for you. Years and years ago, I was doing a consulting project, a coaching project. And when I do coaching with executives and assistants, well, one, I love it. But when I do that work, I have private time with the executive and I ask the executive what's working well in your relationship and what isn't working. And I also ask the assistant the same thing in private. What's working well? What are some barriers to being more successful? And then I spend 2 days with the executive and assistant, and we really have great conversations and pin down exactly ways how they can improve their relationships. Anyways, I will never forget this one executive said to me, I don't understand. One day my assistant is so sharp and she's a shining star and she's on top of it. And the next day it's like she doesn't know what's going on. He said, I don't understand. You don't want that to be a part of your reputation, right? You don't want people to say, Mary Sue's inconsistent. I never know how Mary Sue's going to respond. Just don't ruffle Mary Sue up because, oh boy, she could blow up at you, or she may walk away, or she may insult you, or I don't know. She may be passive today. You don't want that. Consistency is very important. Being consistently professional, consistency, being on time. I'm kind of adamant. One of my biggest pet peeves is about being on time. So I'm consistent. I really am. Unless there's a major accident or something has happened that's out of my control, I will arrive early. I will try to be there early so that I'm there on time, ready to go. There are assistants who are consistently late. I can think about someone who was attending our world-class assistant program 4 full days. And here she's attending world class. She was not demonstrating world class every morning consistently. She walked in after I started the class, and she walked in with her bowl of oatmeal because she hadn't gotten up early enough to eat her breakfast. Do you want that to be your reputation? No. Think consistency. So consistent in your actions, consistent in your posture, consistent in your attitude. Again, positive attitude, of course. Maybe you're consistently taking care of your executive. You're consistent in ensuring your executive is 100% prepared for his or her meeting. And that builds trust. That's the other thing. When you're consistent, people know they can trust you. They can rely on you. They're going to want to build rapport with you. They're going to want to create win-win situations with you. All right, we've got one more. The last life preserver, no shortcuts. People of excellence do not take shortcuts. What does that mean? They don't take shortcuts. They don't skimp. They take the extra time they need. They take the extra time to think through a situation. They don't take the easy way out. They don't give up on something they believe in. What are some shortcuts you see people take? If anything comes to mind, would you share that in the chat, or what might be some other examples of a shortcut? So that's how you really can differentiate people of excellence. They'll go the extra mile. They will really think about something. Some of yours, anyone have some about shortcuts? No, I'm not saying no shortcuts. Sorry. No. Thank you for clarifying that. So you give your very best. All right, we're going to get to questions and answers in just a moment. I just want to encourage you and remind you that your reputation is to be treasured. And it will go with you the rest of your life. It's always there. Right now, your reputation is being formed in the chat. If you are providing your articulate in the chat, you're giving good ideas in the chat, I'm forming an impression of you, and so are the other 999 people that are in the chat with us. If someone comes in the chat and they start getting all huffy puffy with us because their technology wasn't working, they're also getting a reputation. So treasure it. All right, Malia, I am ready and excited to take questions. What do you have for me today?
Hello, Joan and everybody out there. We have a few questions. Jen would like to know, is reputation the same as brand?
You know, that's a really good question, and thank you for asking. They're very connected, because when we refer to branding, we're also using similar descriptors. So again, what people say about my brand is they'll talk about being poised, polished, professional. That's also what I wanted to create as part of my reputation. So yes, they're definitely intertwined. Sometimes when we are talking about brand, we'll also specifically get into, though, appearance. Appearance is a big part of brand. And we'll strategically figure out how we want to brand ourselves according to our appearance. So there are a few little differences, but very closely intertwined.
Thank you, Joan. Megan is saying, how would you get honest feedback about your reputation from others? No flattery, no sugarcoating, just honest feedback about your reputation.
It's really asking. A good activity some of our assistants have done in my Star Achievement class, where we get into branding, and I love this. What they did is they went and asked maybe 10 to 15 people in the workplace who know them or who knew them really well, who had worked with them. And they said, how would you describe my brand, or how would you describe me? And please be honest. Don't worry, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I really need to know this because I want to work on becoming even better. And what happens if you ask 10 to 15 people, you ask them to give you 5 descriptors, usually you will see a trend. You will see certain words that are repeated. So then what you have to do is look at those words and say, is that what I want? So sometimes what will come up for someone is part of their brand or reputation. They're really quiet. And an assistant asked me, is that good or bad? I said, well, it depends. Do you want to be known as being quiet? You know, it's up to you. So again, that's where you really have to think about it. So that, you know, that's one way to do it, is to sincerely ask people, but people too who you know aren't going to sugarcoat it. Sometimes our best friends are afraid to give us, you know, the best feedback. So it's also how you prompt them. You want to be sure to say, I'm striving to improve certain areas. And I would love for you to point out my blind spots, you know, the things that I can't see that you think I should work on. That's what I would do.
Okay. Erin says that she tends to be detail-oriented and a planner. Mm-hmm. How can I be better about realizing that others aren't always wired the same way and work effectively with them? Earn a reputation for being able to collaborate.
That's a really good one. So first of all, of course, is recognition. And the good thing is you recognize that you are detailed and you are a planner. Second is to truly, truly realize a lot of people are not wired that way. They're not doing it on purpose. It's their DNA, just like your detailed is in your DNA. And you're going to have to really kind of control yourself sometimes and step back and be patient. Be really patient and try to just absorb and take in what that other person, is doing, or how they're thinking. And the beauty of that is, if we want to be successful, we want people who complement PLE our strengths. We don't want everyone who's just like us. We learn and grow and become better by being with people who are different, who think differently, who see things differently, and step out of who we are.
I love that. Patty wants to know, if others do not think you have a good reputation, how do you change it? How do you fix your reputation?
It's hard. I mean, I'm being upfront with you, because remember I said a reputation builds over time. And so it's difficult. And all I want to say is you can do it, and it will take time. So you have to start changing actions, behaviors. Maybe it's body language. I mean, first of all, you have to recognize, what is it? What is it that people are saying about you? And, so you know what you need to fix and work on. And then walk your talk. That's the best thing you could do every single day. Prove yourself, demonstrate through your behaviors, your actions. And in time, people will start to form different views and opinions of you. So here's a good example. I'll give you something really simple. Years and years ago, 17 years ago, I moved to Las Vegas. And first impressions are also tied into brand and reputation. And we all know people form first impressions of us, whether they are true or not. And so what happened, I had found, it took me several tries, but I eventually found a good beautician for my hair. And by appearance alone, I thought that she was intelligent. I mean, she was very pretty, very pretty. She was very sexy. These are the words I would use to describe her. Provocative, the way she dressed, and all kinds of things. I didn't know inside was a deep thinking person, but she cut my hair really good. So I kept going back and I kept going back. And as I got to know her, she was getting into these thought-provoking conversations with me, and she was caring and loving and warm. Do you see how I shifted my perception of her? It did take time. So that's all I want to say to you. If you are consistent, you keep moving in the direction you want to move in, people will start talking about that and reframing your brand or your reputation.
Great. Shannon is asking, how do you reply to a situation where a colleague is trying to damage your reputation out of jealousy?
That's my immediate answer is you have to confront that dragon, as I call them, head on. But let's think for a moment. Make sure you have all the facts before you would confront an individual in a good way. I don't mean have a confrontation, but I mean to address them about what's happening. Make sure you have the facts. Make sure you know. And with that information, then you want to be able to have a conversation with that individual and let them know, that you are aware of what is happening and what's going on, and that it is really unacceptable to you that this individual speaks behind your back. And I had to have a conversation like that when I was in my 20s. I was living in Cleveland, Ohio. I could remember the office. I could remember the floor. I could remember the woman who I had to have that conversation with. And she actually was my boss's boss assistant, his assistant. So it was a little scary, but you need to address people head on, again, in a very positive, assertive way, and let them know that it's just unacceptable that happens. And then, it doesn't mean that someone's going to change, but you have to give it an effort, and you may have to address it 2 or 3 times. And if it still isn't working, you just have to carry your head high, continue to be the good person you are, because the majority of people are really going to know your worth and know who you are. And that's going to really overtake maybe the little negative seeds that are being planted. Now, if that person's doing real harm and damage, then you might have to go to HR.
Okay. Joanne is saying, she's asking, what would be a good way to approach a coworker whose reputation is going on a downhill spiral?
Very good question. And first of all, thank you for caring about that individual. And I don't know what your relationship is with the person, how well you know them, if they're a really good friend or maybe they're just a coworker. So, that can make some differences. But overall, presenting it in a way to this individual that you really care and maybe what you're observing. So you would say, not, well, I know this, but here's what I've observed. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm seeing. And I really care that, your reputation not be tarnished. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. Now, of course, you're welcome to do whatever you want with what I'm saying, but I'm just sharing observations. So you can't argue with that. What you observe is what you observe. You're not stating their facts, but this is an observation. And then from that point, let them take it from there. And it may, if they want to pursue the conversation, deeper with you, then I'm sure they're going to ask you questions.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. Lisa is saying that her office is very disorganized and casual. How can she help them improve without stepping on toes?
Walk your talk. Again, be the example that you want to see in others. A lot of times when you are the example, other people will notice, what you're doing and continue again to be consistent. Depending on, what the situation is, you want to carefully, yes, approach people because you don't want them to think you're critiquing their work. So one way around it, here's a good idea, is to share with them something you've heard or learned pertinent to what you want to help them with. So it's not really coming from you. Like today, if you heard something good, you could take this and go to, let's say, Joe, and say, Joe, I was on this webinar today with Joan Burge, and we were talking about a reputation of excellence. And something Joan talked about was, so this way it's not like coming so much from you, you're just the deliverer of the information. That's a good way to present something. Another way could be maybe if you want to hold a little, like if you had a department meeting, again, I don't know who specifically you're talking about, but you can get everyone together and let's have a brainstorming session. I just heard something great, and I've been watching some webinars about excellence, in the workplace, and it made me stop and think about how I believe we could raise the bar here in our department and ask people to give you ideas. People don't argue with their own ideas, but they will argue with you. So a few starters. Let's take about 2 more questions, and then
okay.
I have a couple words I just want to close with, but everybody stay on too. Because they're probably very good questions. So please stay on if you can.
Okay, Dell is asking, what about a colleague who wants to take over your position? She's overstepping her boundaries and using it as more responsibility to go higher through the ranks of the company.
Whew.
Yeah.
Good luck on that one. No. All right. So let me see if I understand. So I don't understand. Is she trying to take your position or just learning your responsibilities to advance to another different, a different position?
Her question is, what about the colleague who wants to take over your position?
Your position. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you continue to do an excellent job and you're consistent and you're innovative and you're always improving yourself, and why would I want to replace you with someone else who's not as good? So it's interesting. I'm just thinking about something that was said in a class recently. What were we talking about? Because it was such a good phrase. And oh, it was fear. I think we were talking about fear, and we were talking about peer power and administrative professionals working together. And so the subject of fear coming up, that the reason why I don't share ideas with other administrative professionals is I'm afraid they're going to take my job. One of our participants said, and I thought this was so wise, if someone else gets my job, then shame on me for not keeping up. Pretty plain and simple, right? Again, if you're that power player, you're bringing your A game all the time, or again, 90% of the time, you shouldn't have to be looking over your shoulder and worrying about people. You're secure within yourself. And she'll eventually, go somewhere else or fall by the wayside or stay where she is.
Okay.
All right. How about one more? And
one more. Martha would like to know if you've seen a big shift from baby boomers to now the millennials.
Well, definitely. I have a lot more millennials in my classes. For years and years and years, 80% of my attendees, whether at our conference or in the classroom, were the baby boomers. Now, there are many baby boomers still working today. They're not ready to retire, or they can't retire. They're just finding joy in their work. But definitely now the numbers have shifted. I'd say probably maybe 60% baby boomers and 40% millennials. And so, that creates interesting dynamics in the workplace. And you want to form a reputation of getting along with all generations. That's really important. So before everyone has to head back to work, just something I want to share before you head out. First of all, I hope you loved today's topic, reputation of excellence. As I was saying, this was from our Learning at Sea inaugural event. And so it was so impactful that I've scheduled another Learning at Sea for next year. It's March 12th to the 16th, 4 nights, 3 days of learning. If you're interested, if you truly want to know what happens on the Learning at Sea, next week, I'm hosting a Q&A webinar. I'm going to go into the details of what is it like being on the ship and learning. What's the experience like? The course, the materials we cover, pre-course work, the bonding experience. So it is not your typical training. So if you're not interested in that, then don't participate. But if you're like really curious, please come to next Wednesday's webinar. There will be a link. You could also go to officedynamics.com/learning@sea. We have all the information there. We put together a video collage of our event that we attended in March, and you could get a feel for the event. But I hope you'll look into it. I mean, if you're just looking for something magnificently different in 2018, you might want to really check out the details of what it's like. And I would like to close by just saying, remembering that your reputation is a treasure. So treasure it, okay? And I hope you have a fantastic week. And I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you so very much for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.